Okay, good afternoon. It is, and welcome to the Placer County Local Agency Formation Commission meeting. Today is Wednesday, October 9th, 2024. It is 4:01 p.m. And we'll start with a salute to the flag. And Jenny, why don't you lead us? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Amy, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Alpine? Commissioner Burris? Absent. Commissioner Carlskin?
Here.
Commissioner Landon?
Here.
Commissioner Rohan? Alternate Commissioner Bass? Absent. Alternate Commissioner Friedman? Absent. Alternate Commissioner Holmes? Alternate Commissioner Knisely?
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Spriggs? And Chair Gustafson.
Here. Okay, we'll move on to agenda item 3. This is changes and approval of the agenda. We've had a request from our staff and our consultant that we move item 6A on the strategic plan, that we move that up to right after public comment. And then we would go to our consent calendar items after that. Is that meet with everybody's approval? Can I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we'll move then to public comment. Are there any members of the public who would like to address us on items that are not on today's agenda? I don't see anybody in the room. Any hands online? Okay, and no public comment. We'll move then to item 6A, which is the Placer LAFCO strategic plan. After all of our efforts and work, What a great day this is. So I will turn it over to Michelle, and we'll take it from there.
Thank you. That was my introduction. We've spent all summer, we had 3 meetings. I think they were 5-6 hour long meetings. And on April 29th, the 4th, and the 16th. And so this is all of your hard work and effort. And the strategic plan, there's one out in the audience, but you all have the physical copies in your packet. And then we will publish the flip book tonight online. So, and make it available to everyone on our website. Ellen and Maria, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you so much, Michelle. We are very excited to be presenting to you the final copy of the strategic plan that you all worked very hard on providing the content for. So the content, just to remind the commissioners, you approved all of the comment, including the mission, vision, values, and goals, and even the guiding principles. We then took all of your content and we turned it into this final product, which did include some other graphics that we thought would be really helpful, and we discussed as part of the project, as part of the strategic planning process, rather, that really helped identify who LAFCO is, who LAFCO isn't, as well as a historic timeline to give people perspective on where LAFCO's been, where we're going for the next 3+ years, as well as a map of who the LAFCO participants or members are. So we're super excited about it, and we hope you also meet your expectations of all the intent and input that the commissioners provided. And we're also happy to pull a copy up on screen if the commissioners would like us. We have an electronic copy we can go through.
I don't think we need it to go through online. Do you? Did you want to?
No, I think because everyone has a physical copy in front of them, I think we're okay.
And those in the, they're for sale for a minimal amount of money for those of you in the room.
There's one.
She's late.
Well, Ellen and Maria, I just want to thank you so much for leading us through those sessions. I think they were extremely helpful and just a great opportunity for us to really talk about who we are, what we're doing, and bring our various perspectives. You led us through a great process, I felt, and I hope everybody did. Supervisor Landon, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I was just going to say, at first, I was going to echo what you said. Thank you so much for all of your work and helping and to navigate those conversations and keep all of us kind of on the tracks having those conversations. But this turned out beautiful. I love the logo. I think it's just such a great representation of Placer County, and I love the bridge idea, super cool. It's just great. I love it, and I haven't been able to obviously delve into all of the content, but super easy to look at and understand for the public to be able to kind of grasp what LAFCO does. So thank you so much for all of your work.
Thank you. We're really hoping that you are all very proud of it and that you can take it to your commissioner meetings, you can take it to your constituents and your members of LAFCO. And particularly as you're onboarding new commissioners and growing your staff, et cetera, it'll be an easier document and understanding of LAFCO, who you are and what your priorities are. We understand that your priorities may shift, but this will be a great guiding light to facilitating those discussions of how you prioritize annually your budget and your priorities.
Yes, Michael Walker. You have your hand up?
Yes, thank you, Chair Gustis. And I just wanted to clarify for the record, for purposes of the Brown Act, that any member of the public who's actually present in the room with you this afternoon may review the strategic plan copy that you have there without cost. They may not take it with them. They may later get a copy if they want one, but they may review it if they choose to. I just want to clarify that for the record.
Mr. Walker, I apologize for having a little fun this afternoon. Thank you
I'll
for
take
the
care of
reminder to the public that they are free, and I was. Yeah. Any other comments from commissioners?
Seeing this beautiful document reminds me of going to the supermarket and buying a good-looking sausage. Don't ask how it was made. Enjoy the result. It was, I think we said this before, I thought this was the most professional and worthwhile process of determining our strategic plan that I've gone through in my business life and my elected life or public government life. There were some very good, in-depth conversations, and everybody kept their animosity in check. But I'm very happy with the end product, and we'll make sure I distribute the hell out of it. Thank you.
No, absolutely. We only printed limited copies because we were waiting for you to approve it. But as soon as we get back to our office, we'll be ordering more, and we'll be providing it to our partners.
Free
and
to the partners?
Yes, it will
Okay.
be free.
I didn't say thank you to you, Michelle, and to your team as well.
Oh,
Sorry, I just was looking at the screen and forgot to say thank you to you too for all of your work.
thank you. And Megan and Kelsey, I asked them to stop by because they and Amy, all three of them did so much work to, putting all of those meetings, extra meetings together at the very, last minute sometimes. That was super helpful, and they did so much work for having our strategic meetings off-site.
I just wanted to add, well done. Good job, ladies.
Thank you. We were very excited that there was enough budget to be able, Maria is very gifted and talented in her artistic graphical skills to be able to develop a logo for you and create more of an identity, because we felt with all the discussions and understanding externally, there's a lot of confusion of who LAFCO was. So now starting to build that identity into Placer County LAFCO, we thought would be helpful as part of the educational piece as well.
Great. Well, to those of you in the public watching or hearing this later, every single word was discussed ad nauseum. I want to say that we spent a huge amount of time, and I think that was really helpful to the commissioners to really discuss those objectives and our strategies for implementing those objectives. And I think we had great intentions. Let's hope those who follow in our footsteps look at this and give us some grace that if we got a word wrong or if we used a different term, that we all agreed to, that we can remember what we did, so we can explain it. But it was a great effort, and I think it's a beautiful product and really easy to understand and follow. So with that, we'll take any public comment on this item. I'm not seeing any online, and I'm not seeing any in the room. Then I would bring it back to the board for action.
We just receive it, right?
No,
We're adopting it.
we need to adopt it.
I move we adopt.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, well, let's give ourselves a round of applause. We don't get to celebrate much at LAFCO, but doing a strategic plan, I think, is a great step forward. Thank you, Michelle, for your leadership on it throughout the process. So now we'll go back to consent items. On our consent calendar today, we have minutes from August 21st, and then a project status report. We have item 5C, which I think we'd like to pull because we have a representative from one of the cemetery districts here that would like to, I think, comment on this item. And then item D, which is the sphere of influence study for the Eastern Placer County Fire Protection and EMS providers contract award of phase 1 study. So I would entertain a motion to approve A, B, and D, unless there was somebody who wanted to speak on any of those.
I just
Oh, wait, we need to ask for public if they do want to speak.
mention I wasn't here for the minutes. I wasn't
Okay.
here on August 21st.
And I was negligent. Are there any members of the public who wish to pull an item from the agenda? Okay. Then I would look for a motion on items 5A, B, and D.
I will move approval of 5A, B, and D.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? You've already noted your abstention on the minutes. Okay, so we'll go to item 5C. Michelle, do you want to lead that?
Yes, thank you, Chair. We received a comment from the Roseville Cemetery District a couple of days ago, which I distributed to the commission, and it's out in the public. They are requesting that we table the item to consider the service review contract at another meeting once they've had a chance to review the proposal or maybe the scope. But I also provided a letter to the cemetery district and have since spoken with them. I am scheduled to speak at their December 12th meeting to go over the LAFCO process and what a service review, what that entails, why we are mandated to conduct service reviews and sphere of influence studies. I think there was a little bit of a disconnect. So I hopefully was able to explain a little bit about why we're conducting the service review. Again, they were due January 1, 2008. So we are 17 years, 10 months past the due date. And so that's why we're doing them. Why we're doing it now instead of later is that we've received, I know members of the commission have received complaints from the public on some of the upkeep of our historical cemeteries, and we've also received concerns from members of the cemetery districts themselves because there are a number of boundary issues with the districts. A lot of the annexations that were occurring in the early 2000s when all of the development really started happening in Placer County, the cemetery districts were not detached as part of those city annexations. As a result, we have 4 cemetery districts out of the 6 with major boundary irregularities. So it's been a while since I personally have written a service review for the cemetery districts, but when you have a public cemetery district and a private cemetery district, I believe within 15 miles of your location, you're limited in where you can receive services. So there are some people in Rocklin that are not able to go to the Rocklin, it's Newcastle, Rocklin, Gold Hill Cemetery District, right? But you automatically think, well, I live in Rocklin, I'll go to the Rocklin Cemetery District. And that's not available to them. And then, and the out-of-agency, allowance that there has, it's very limited. It's if you've ever received or ever paid property tax into that district, you can get an exception. But again, a lot of these areas, they're newly developed areas, or newly, from the last 2 decades. And so they may not have always lived in Rocklin Cemetery District. And then the same thing for Roseville, and it's a lot, significant areas that used to be undeveloped but are now fully developed. Again, same situation, they're not able to, use the Roseville Cemetery District services because they're not a resident of that district, even though they live in the city of Roseville. Same thing, a few little areas in Lincoln, not as big of an area. And then Auburn, certainly the same situation. But basically all of our areas in the last 2 decades that have been developing, the LAFCO action didn't include the cemetery districts, which is unfortunate because now we have residents that are there and they need those services. So anyway, that is my long story about why we need to conduct a service review now, because again, we're receiving complaints from members of the public, the districts themselves, and I believe we need to move forward.
Thank you, Michelle. Commissioners, are there questions or comments from you? And then we'll go to the public.
I did have a question. It's about the proposal or the scope of work.
Yes.
I see that, I can't put my finger on it right now in the package for page number to refer other people to it, but there's references to the consultant looking at the potential of consolidating all of the districts into one and options for doing that. And I can imagine that would create a lot of anxiety.
Yeah,
These boards not realizing that might also be on the table. So I was curious about how much do they know about it, and I'm not aware if LAFCO is the one that makes a final decision or if voters end up making those decisions, and it's just laying out a process for people.
right. So the consultants, like all consultants, they'll be tasked with looking at different options. Some of those options are consolidation, maybe not with all the districts. That's certainly one thing they look at, but I would imagine that would be problematic with ours just because we have just, Tahoe, on the, and they wouldn't be able to handle all of the growth, for example, and the population if everybody from Roseville, Lincoln, Rocklin wanted to be interred into Tahoe. So those are some considerations, whether are not, some of the districts have PERS. I did a consolidation with 3 cemetery districts, and they all had different PERS formulas. And so you have to choose the most expensive one, right? And so you bring up everyone to the same level. And so we had to look for new revenue sources there, and that's not always the case. So so those are some of the analysis that the consultant will have to conduct, the fiscal implications, because sometimes it may make sense to clean up the boundary, but when you add the fiscal analysis into it, sometimes it just doesn't pencil out for various reasons.
So when will they and how will the different boards understand the process and where they can be engaged in it?
Right. So the consultant will be interviewing the board members and the districts, and then once they have a technical draft that's provided to the districts and staff ahead of the public, and it's looking for errors in the document, it should have been a 6 instead of a 9, things of that nature. And then once the technical draft once we have all of our edits, then there's a draft service review. And then that gets published on our website at the districts. And it's, we open up a 30-day comment period. So it allows other agencies, the district, the public to provide comments, and then the commission will receive a final, and then all of the options and alternatives will be there. You can adopt or adopt with modifications. If there is a consolidation, usually LAFCOs like to have the district initiate, just because of the protest threshold when it goes to the public. That's not to say that we can't initiate, it's just that the threshold is lower when we do. And then so, of course, we'll do the same thing like with what we did with Chief Layton back there with his district, where we have the public hearing, we have the protest hearing, a possible election, and then it's finalized.
Is that just for one board?
Each
board?
So I had one with 3, like a 3 districts. So you can have 2, 3, 4, however many. You submit it as one application. So if, for example, I'm not suggesting we, consolidate Tahoe and Roseville. That doesn't make sense, right? But if we had all 6 and they're like, yes, we want a countywide cemetery district, you could have one application with 6 districts. Or if there's just 2 districts where it makes the most sense to consolidate 2 because you realize savings and, improve services, et cetera, then that could be one as well. So there's no limitation.
Okay.
Well, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
So, in clarification, an MSR is just a study.
It's just a study.
Whatever's initiated in a finding, so in the study, they may find deficiencies that recommend consolidations, could be a finding or determination. Whatever, that's just the study. Then if someone wants to take action of what is found in the study, let's say 2 districts decide to consolidate or change boundaries or do some other things, those all have to come back for separate actions.
Yes.
And so this does not tie anybody's hands together, and then it's just a study of the efficiency of the service. And they'll have the list like normally, like maybe a suggestion, they will look at a consolidation or they will look at dissolution of maybe a smaller district. And then it'll be up to the board of how to approach those findings or solutions. But I think the MSR that is currently going out is to just maybe explore, not just explore how each of them are doing business, but actually look about gain efficiencies either through consolidations or dissolutions.
Right, and sometimes, the status quo makes the most sense. And so that can come out of a service review too. It doesn't necessarily mean that we are going to consolidate districts. It's just one thing that they consider as part of improving services, lowering costs, et cetera.
Will the consultant be preparing something like frequently asked questions? I think that there's going to need to be a lot of information that the different cemetery districts can pass out to people or use to be able to answer questions. My guess is that this is going to be
Yeah, I can do that. I did that
surprising
with,
to people.
No, Chief Lane and I prepared an FAQ as part of our outreach to his 2 districts, right, with the Meeks Bay and North Tahoe. I don't know if you remember, that was 3 years ago. It took us that long. But that is part of the FAQ. Why are we doing this? What does it mean? Blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I normally do that.
Thank you.
This item, as I understand it, is to authorize you to enter into a contract with a consultant who is going to do a service review of cemetery districts. That's what it's about.
That's all it is, yes.
That's all it is. We have to do that periodically.
Should have.
Should have done it every
We
5 years.
know that we absolutely need to, from a timing standpoint, do it with a set of districts. My question, the only question that we should be discussing is what does it do to the cost of the study?
Well,
I can't-
by adding more to the scope, right?
Yeah.
You add-
No,
Changing we're not changing the, if you will, the requirements of the study, which is to study all of the cemetery districts, from our service standpoint, correct?
Yes, no, we have 6 or 7 factors that we have to make determinations on. It's whether or not it's a city, a district, any kind of district. We are obligated to make those determinations, capacity, capability, et cetera. We can't change. The only option we have is the 7th factor is anything else that the commission wants to consider. So
But that's
that's
obviously
it.
not in the basic.
No, we're
That's
doing
in the process.
yeah, this is just the basic.
It's all process.
Right.
Thank you, just to comply with state law, and there's nothing outside of what is required under state law. So if we start adding, we can do that, but yes, it will drive up the cost. This is just the basic, what we're legally mandated to do.
I'm not debating any of that. I just know, I've been around the cemetery districts. They're going to be real surprised. And I think it's
think
just
I'll
going to be
only visit.
extremely important to make sure that they understand, we should have been doing this, we're back in doing it, it will be done in a routine way in the future, and this is how you participate. And I just think that's extremely important because there's going to be some pissed off people. Promise.
So,
Okay, but that's,
And there's also going to be some very happy people who've been waiting for this.
Yes.
With the
Yeah.
smaller districts who are waiting to consolidate. So,
And
Yeah.
especially when I first
They're
started.
always in District 5, I just will say.
Yes, I have received phone calls from the public because they're upset because they live in Roseville. Like, I don't understand why I can't go to the Roseville Cemetery. I live in Rocklin. Why can't I go to Rocklin, right? And so if I'm getting those phone calls, I imagine that the cemetery district itself is receiving phone calls because most people don't know about LAFCO. But yes, we are doing
So you
the
could do
bear.
an FAQ and get that out to all the cemetery districts and. board
Absolutely. And you know what? Our strategic plan has a lot of that information.
Yes,
So
it
I will
does.
pass that on my December 12th presentation. And then go to the other districts and pass it out there.
Any other comments or questions? We'll go to the public. Yes, Cherry.
Sorry.
That's okay.
So Michelle, what you just said I think is spot on. I agree with you, Commissioner Rohan. I think this is actually a good opportunity for us to start doing the public outreach that we need to do around this piece. It's a very important thing that we need to do and we haven't been doing, but then it also gives us an opportunity to educate around what LAFCO is doing. So the fact that it is in the strategic plan and this is happening, I actually think it's a really nice timing, but we have to take advantage of this opportunity to make sure that we're being proactive about the education piece of it, because that falls on us.
Actually,
Yes?
Sorry. I was going to actually add to the whole thing. It should not just only go to cemetery districts. Everybody should know about the MSR project, and we're back on pace of doing the process again. So just in the regular outreach of whatever the simple questions, what is an MSR, what is the process, blah, 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 and get those all out. And even if it was sent out annually, just so people understand that this is coming at them for the next, for forever, as we get back in line of meeting our statutory commitments. So
Commissioner Kinsley?
Yeah, it's been my experience too that since Loomis is on the list, I've had people reach out to me afraid that we are looking to annex other parts of the county, and we're not, or know of any. So I just think the education part to all of them is a good idea.
Dan, did you still want to make a comment? Okay.
And I think we have a member from the cemetery, or I'm sorry, he's the director of the cemetery district.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to the public now. Yes.
Good afternoon, thanks for having me. My name is Craig Forey, I'm the district manager of the Roseville Public Cemetery District. I think a lot of what you've spoken would definitely benefit the districts. I think the open communication and what is LAFCO, what are we doing, the whole study thing. It was kind of a shock when we received it at first, seeing the proposed sphere of influence and what is the TRAs to go to Newcastle, what we'd be gaining, what we'd be losing, would have a negative impact on our district. That's just speaking for the Roseville Cemetery. So I do look forward to meeting with you, and if I can request 6 of those strategic plans,
Sure.
I would appreciate that. But yes, having the communication and having the cemetery district have a voice to the commission, I think that is what we need. So I look forward to that. So
Great, thank you.
thank you.
And thanks for being here today.
Absolutely, thank you. Thank you.
Any other members of the public wish to address the commission? Not seeing any online, and anyone else in the room, will bring it back for discussion and potential action.
Motion to approve the staff recommendation for 5C.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Motion passes. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. I have to get back.
I know, I have to get back to my agenda now. Okay. So now we are on to item 6B, LAFCO project number 2022-01, the reorganization of Meeks Bay and North Tahoe Fire Protection District's protest hearing outcome.
Yes, I'm happy to report that we did not receive any protests. And we did all the noticing requirements, but what was great is that before the commission approved the annexations, there were articles in the paper, not, in the legal ad, but actual articles that people could read. And then there were articles after the annexation approval and before the protest hearing. So there was a lot of publicity. And even with that, and I know the districts had a lot of signage and information for the public available, and so we held it in Kings Beach at the district, and we had a few people online and a few people in the room, but no one submitted a protest. So Chief Layton is here to speak to you, but it was a wonderful experience, I will say.
Great. Chief, would you like to address us?
Good evening, Commissioners. Steve Layton, Fire Chief, North Tahoe Fire Protection District. When I started this process five years ago, it started a lot longer before when I got there. 5 years ago, I didn't know what LAFCO was. I had no idea. 5 years later, I've become the fire service residential expert on the topic. So, but I just want to say that this is what it looks like when government does things right. This should be celebrated as a victory for both El Dorado and Placer counties, and LAFCO and the fire districts. This is what it looks like when we be patient, We work hard. This project was #1 on your list for 2 years. And there were 31 projects on the list. And it got to the point where we thought we were going to have to drop it off, right? And so I want to thank you for your patience and giving us an extension time and letting us work through the process. And I couldn't be more happier. I'm very fortunate to work for an outstanding organization in North Tahoe Fire. I'm one of the luckiest people in the world. I have a great staff, and I want to thank them who are also watching, because they spent a lot of time and effort into this too. So this is a team effort. This is no single person did this. This is definitely a team effort. And I want to thank Michelle for her professionalism and Amanda for getting us through the process. I've had numerous conversations with Michelle, and we've actually become friends in the process. So it's been a win-win on both sides. So thank you very much for your patience, and I look forward to other organizations following suit, and hopefully we've led the way and showed people what it looks like to be efficient in government and what it looks like to do the right thing for the public. So thank you very much.
Great. Well, thank you, Chief. A lot of tenacity, especially when we got into all the revenue issues and exchanges in El Dorado and Placer County staff working together to try to make this happen. So great job and I think Nita probably was working on this many years ago, before you were there.
Yeah, I don't know Chief Layton, but I worked for North Tahoe Fire from 2008 until, yes.
Yeah. Anyway, for those of you who are online, we were just introducing the chief to Nita Racker, who was finance manager? Administrator, yeah, for North Tahoe Fire back in a number of years ago. Anyway, great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's the kind of public comment I like.
Yeah, that's good.
Don't hear it very often.
And so do we need to actually vote to confirm that
Oh,
action?
yes, please, yes.
Yes.
And I don't see Judy, so I think we don't need a roll call vote.
You will for a resolution, I believe.
Okay.
We're adopting a resolution, approved to adopt resolution 2409.
I'll second. Oh, go for it, Dan.
I'll second.
Okay, and then a roll call vote on this one?
All right, Commissioner Alpine,
Yes.
Commissioner Carlskent,
Yes.
Commissioner Landon,
Yes.
Commissioner Rohan,
Yes.
alternate Commissioner Nisley, and Chair Gustafson.
Yes. Thank you very much, and we should clap again. That was a long labor, that's all I'll say. Item 6C, Executive Officer's Report.
Thank you. I'm just going to quickly go over all of our current projects and upcoming projects for the next couple of meetings. And then I'm going to introduce Amanda, you know Amanda, but I'm going to pass off the baton to Amanda because she will be presenting a research project that the chair and vice chair had asked for at the closed session the last that we had, and it was looking at comparable LAFCOs and throughout the state of California. So, but I'm going to start with our projects. First, we have the City of Roseville Service Review, which is out in the audience. We do have a number of copies, so I'll provide that to you. We will be sending the draft tonight, and we'll make it available to the public and as well as the public agencies. So it'll be at the with the commission on November 6th, and at that time you'll be opening the item up for a 30-day public comment period, and then I anticipate that it will either be in our December meeting or January meeting for adoption of the final. The other service review that we finally have, it's taken 3 years, is the fire EMS and dispatch study for the Western Placer County. So again, same thing with that. I'll be distributing it tonight, and it'll be on our website. There are copies out in the lobby, but it's 647 pages. So quite long. Roseville's only 110. So, you know, if you want a physical copy, if we run out, just let us know and we'll get you a physical copies. Again, same thing, November 6th, the commission will receive it and open the public comment period. And then you may want to consider extending it to a 45-day comment period because we have 13 agencies, but I'll check in with the chiefs and the districts when that time comes. But it could be that you consider a final in December and January, similar to Roseville. The other items that you'll be seeing on the December agenda is the South Placer extension of ambulance service, which Amanda is working on. Again, it's another one of those projects where LAFCO should have taken multiple action at the time of the reorganization, but we didn't. And so now it's a matter of doing the actions that should have occurred. And unfortunately, we can't open up a project. We have to start over. So Amanda's working with the district on that. We do have an application in-house from them. And then, going down, SPMUD, South Placer Municipal Utility District. I did have a meeting with the consultant. That service review, we should have a technical draft the end of October, so that may be on our November agenda as well, but don't hold me to it yet, but for sure it'll be December. And then the Loomis service review, as I mentioned, we're working with the fire chief for the ambulance service to extend it into Loomis, and then as soon as that is done, we are going to be working on Amanda will be taking the lead on the service review for the city of the town of Loomis. So that's it for my presentation. If you have any questions, you can ask now, or we can wait until Amanda presents her information, her findings from her study. Okay.
Were there any questions on upcoming items? Because I thought.
Yeah, I did have a question for Village 5. I didn't know if we were going to bring that up during commissioner
yes.
comments or.
Yeah.
So sorry.
Just a small minor detail.
Sorry, I was like in the group with the service reviews. Yes, so we do have a certificate of filing that I issued today. And so right now it's scheduled for the December 11th meeting. And I do know that there's a couple of requests on the that the applicant is wanting the commission to consider. So I'll turn it over to them. I do have, as I mentioned, Rincon is doing, the consultant is doing the bulk of all of the analysis and the processing. But we believe we can be comfortable with getting the full analysis and the staff report to you at the December 11th meeting. With the November meeting, it's a little bit more difficult simply because of all of the analysis involved.
And we just found out about that.
No, we're still receiving comments from public agencies, from the other affected agencies, such as today's, and such as, comment to this morning. So they're still incoming, and we need time to look at that information. Ordinances that, for example, that other agencies have, and we need to look at the impacts on what the potential, what the potential impacts that this development project has on existing ordinances for other agencies.
And is that, can I just ask, is that different than when we heard the project before?
Yes.
I mean, that other island, it will create those kinds of issues?
Yes, because now you have a much larger, there's, I believe it's 636 acres, the GIS estimate for the one island, and I think the other island is 250 acres, so there's a lot more properties involved, a lot of impacts to those that will remain unincorporated, potential impacts, right? Especially when you've got existing development, and even when there's no development, when you have public systems running through and around the proposal
These are
area.
different agencies than the first go-around. I know the amount of acreage is different. I know the location, one of the things is different. But are there new agencies involved?
No.
And from a TRA standpoint, aren't most of the services to be provided by the county?
In the unincorporated areas?
Yeah.
What will remain? Yes, except that you have, as I mentioned, public systems. So for example, with sewer and water lines, now those residents that are in the unincorporated areas, if they're located within 300 feet of a public system, they will need to annex or connect to the system. And then right, so LAFCO is not able to break up an island, and so we would have to annex the entire 650 acres. So there's a lot of analysis, is my point. Again, I'm not doing the analysis, but those are the questions that they'll need to have so that they can provide the information to you.
It's not a notice issue. The date on the meeting is not a notice issue. It's a work capacity issue on the contractor, on the executive.
Right, I mean, it would be on any, whether you have the staff or the consultant, all of the analysis that needs to occur, it's a lot of work and a lot of time. So yes, we can do the noticing, but then to do the noticing and do all of the, the analysis so that we can provide a comprehensive packet for the commission so that you are informed when you make your decisions. That's what they need time to do.
And that wasn't anticipated when we brought them on?
No, this is true for every project.
No, I know, but
Okay.
we understood the scope of these changes that were being requested, so Rincon feels they need more time.
They are within the schedule. I mean, you have, as soon as you issue the certificate of filing, that's, you have 90 days.
Okay.
And so they're well within the deadline. December 11th is well within 90 days.
Okay.
Yes.
One thing I would be concerned of, so one of my favorite people, Mr. Carlskint, will no longer be on the city council after December 10th. And so, so I just want to make sure he can participate in the conversation because he's educated on it and knows it, and I would hate for us to lose his insight. So I would be up for having a special meeting on December 4th if there are others who are available. So it still gives extra time. We don't have to meet that November deadline, but then if we could meet at least a week earlier, then Mr.
Yes.
Carlskint could.
And then, yes, that would work well with staff as well, with our schedule, and it doesn't disrupt the other projects that we have already with the other cities and the other special districts. So that would mean, we have 2 meetings in December, a special meeting and a regular meeting, but then we don't impede on the other projects that we already have.
So I guess the question is who would
Well,
be available.
Sherry?
No, I would just, did you pick December 4th because the Thursday or the Wednesday before is like holiday week or something?
Yeah.
Because I was just thinking, is there an earlier time that we could do it? I mean, I know we're meeting November 6th.
I did try some November dates,
Uh-huh.
but then the week before Thanksgiving, there were people that were gone,
Oh, I
and then
see.
it's
Okay.
Thanksgiving, and so then it was.
Got it. Okay.
And then that's still, within 6 days.
Okay. No, I'm certainly in favor of a special meeting too. I was just wondering if we could do it sooner.
Yeah.
That was it.
I mean, unless someone has another date, that would work, but.
Okay.
And as long as it's in the morning, it works for me.
Well, that's probably better for a lot of the participants anyway, but let's hear some ideas from the public and the applicant if we were to move that meeting to December 4th, as well as the other topics.
Good evening, Commissioners. Brian Cooley with Richland Communities. December 4th works for us, so we'll meet any day. But as Commissioner Landon was talking earlier, we really appreciate the participation of Commissioner Carlscant on this issue. He's been on this commission for over a year now and been involved in votes for this particular proposal in front of you. He's also, as a member of the City Council, been involved in Village 5 since its beginning in 2008, the approval of the specific plan in 2018, and I think his institutional knowledge of the project will be beneficial to your decision-making whenever that is. As pointed out, he is off the council on December 10th. If the city retains the seat, but if they were to send a new council member, there's 3 new council members coming on board literally the day before, then to put them in LAFCO the next night really wouldn't be best practices for the city of Lincoln or the commission. So we really would appreciate an earlier hearing. I would just say, for what it's worth as well, we are paying for the staff assistant through Rincon to process the application. If it's a manpower issue or a cost issue to be able to go in November, we're supportive of paying for that additional staff time to hit that date. I would also remind you that this isn't necessarily a brand-new application. You approved a waiver back in July, so the issue of substantially different is off the table. I mean, this issue has been reviewed by LAFCO staff last year. It's some of the same issues. There is an expanded island area, but by and large, we're looking at the same area, the same agencies that were involved in delivering services. One of the things I just wanted to clarify is the agency that is going to be providing services to the unincorporated islands that are remaining is Placer County. That's primarily it from a public safety standpoint, from an infrastructure and services utilities, it's Placer County. So there aren't a whole litany of other agencies that need to be analyzed and weighed in. There is a tax share agreement that's recently been executed between the city and the county, which talks about the fiscal side of that ongoing services. And then the last thing I wanted to clarify is, and we've had numerous community meetings with residents in the last application and this application, those remaining residents that are on septic and well systems in the unincorporated county, which are in the island areas, they will remain on those septic and well systems. There is no requirement per the specific plan of the city of Lincoln for those folks to connect to sewer and water, even if it goes past their property, if they're not in the proposed area, which they're not. So there won't be a change of services to those residents that are remaining in the unincorporated islands. And I would just say, for the past several meetings, when this issue came up for discussion, you can notice the chambers are a lot more vacant than they were a year ago, and primarily because we respected the wishes of those individuals that did not want to be included and forced to abandon their septic and well systems. And so I just want to put that on record as we go forward. And we'll have plenty of time to talk about that here in the future. So I'll respect any decision you have in terms of a scheduling date. I was just picking up off the chief from Meeks Bay. We've been at this for 3 years with LAFCO. We've been at this with the city of Lincoln since 2008, and there's still a long time to go. So every month, every week is critical, but again, I'll leave it to your decision in terms of scheduling. We'll be prepared whenever that hearing occurs. So thank you very much.
Can I just ask one question real quick on the sewer connections? If they don't have to connect if it goes by, but if their septic or something goes out, then they would, right, at that point?
No, if they're staying in the unincorporated county and their septic system goes out.
They still don't have to?
So, Michael, I don't know if I can answer. Am I allowed to answer? Because that was not on the item.
Oh.
Yes, we really can't talk about the specifics of the
Okay.
project.
Sorry.
The commission's discussion about the scheduling of the hearing is fine for the commission to discuss, but in terms of the actual specifics of the project, no, we can't discuss those today.
We'll be happy
Got
at
it.
another time to go into that level.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you, because we did receive comments from, about that today, so, which will be in the staff report.
Thank you. Next.
Ina Racker, Assistant City Manager for the city. So we just wanted to take a moment to extend our appreciation for Michelle and for Rincon and all of the hard work and dedication to get us to this point. And I felt like jumping up and down when she issued the CFF this morning, but I restrained myself. So the city is eager to bring this back to the commission as soon as possible. We would prefer a November date, but we do understand scheduling and workloads, and we acknowledge that if it needs to be December, that we would hope that the commission can agree to December 4th so that Commissioner Carlskin can participate.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public that would like to address the commission? Anybody online? I'm not seeing any hands go up. So I'll bring it back to the commission. We have a suggestion on this one to ask for a special meeting. Now, this is under our executive officer's report, so we don't take action, but we give direction to the staff to schedule the meeting. And I hate to belabor this, but while we're all here, could we look at schedules? Shanti, you mentioned morning only. Will that work for everybody, and approximately what time would be best?
No.
Anytime before noon is fine for me.
So for staff, do you have a preference? Would 9 a.m. work? or-
I think 9 a.m., that way it'll give us a chance to get the room and the setup.
Okay. So we'll give staff direction to set that up for December 4th at 9 a.m. Yes?
And I'll need to know, or have direction how to do this meeting remotely.
To notice it,
How to notice it
he'll be
properly.
remotely.
I'll be at a conference.
Sure.
How awkward.
Well,
I used to go to those. Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to turn over the mic to Amanda here.
Thank you, Michelle. Good evening, commissioners. Oh, is that my thing? Great. So I'll be providing just an overview of the report that you received tonight about a look at similar LAFCOs throughout California and how they stack up to Placer LAFCO. So in order to determine counties that would have similar LAFCOs to Placer, we looked at the following factors. We looked at total county population, the number of cities in each county, and the number of special districts compared to Placer County. So this table is showing you the baseline information that we went off of in order to start the comparison. So you can see there the population for Placer in 2024, the number of cities, number of independent special districts, et cetera. And then you can see that Placer County had a population growth over the last 4 years, very small. So we wanted to give the commission a range to look at. So when we talk about county population, we wanted to look at counties that had plus or minus 15% of Placer County's population in 2024. So that's about 351,000 to about 475,000. And then we looked at a range of cities from about 5 to 10 and a range of independent special districts from 30 to 45. So if we look at all the counties in the state of California by population, this table shows where they fall compared to Placer County. You can see the red information means the data fell outside of the range we were looking for, and the green means it fell within the range. And then for the percent of population change, green is if there was growth, and red is if there was decline. So you can see the next most populous county to Placer is Merced, and they didn't fall within our population range, so we did not review Merced LAFCO. And then if you go for populations greater than Placer County, we have Monterey, Santa Barbara, Solano, and Tulare. And you can see there how they stack up in regards to number of cities and independent special districts. Ultimately, we chose not to review Tulare County because of the way that they have their staffing. They have their LAFCO has a staff services agreement with their COG, which in turn has a staff services agreement with their county. So we couldn't get a clear apples to apples comparison because it was a little bit it was very different than how Placer LAFCO operates, and then their budget was also very different as a result of all those service agreements. So ultimately, we reviewed Placer LAFCO compared to Monterey LAFCO, Santa Barbara LAFCO, and Solano LAFCO. And so we wanted to look at how Placer LAFCO is doing in regards to these three LAFCOs by looking at the budgets that you have compared to theirs, staffing, and the current work program. So here is the table showing the budgets for Placer LAFCO versus the other three LAFCOs. And you can see that Monterey County LAFCO has a little bit less of a budget than Placer, but very similar. Solano has a little more of a budget than Placer, and then Santa Barbara has about half of the budget that Placer LAFCO has. And you can see here too the EO salaries for each LAFCO, and Placer LAFCO fell right in the middle between the EOs. Salaries, with Monterey being the highest and Santa Barbara being the lowest. And then if we look at staffing, comparing Placer to the other LAFCOs, Placer LAFCO employs 2 staff, your executive officer and your clerk, and then you have the vacant assistant EO position. Monterey LAFCO has 4 staff members and Solano employs 6. Monterey has an EO, a principal analyst, a senior analyst, and a clerk, while Solano LAFCO has an EO, a deputy EO, an assistant analyst, an analyst 2, a project specialist, a clerk, and a new vacant position that they just interviewed for and will likely be either an analyst 2 or a project manager. And then Santa Barbara employs 2 staff, their EO and their analyst clerk. And then just for additional information, Santa Barbara LAFCO had considered entering into a shared services agreement for staffing support between Santa Barbara LAFCO and other local LAFCO agencies in the area, including Marin and Santa Cruz, in January of this year. However, due to language concerns in the contract, they ultimately declined to participate. So there is some LAFCOs doing shared services agreements for staffing in California, and Northern California too. So then I looked at the current work program for Placer LAFCO compared to these other LAFCOs. And I looked at what they have slated for their municipal service reviews for cities and county services, as well as special districts. And I wanted to say that not all of them had their work programs created the same. They were all very different. Some of them talked about their municipal service reviews separately from their spheres of influence. So I tried to get it as close to an apples-to-apples comparison as I could. I also want to point out that some of their service reviews are multi-agency reviews and some of them are single agency, which obviously changes the workload for the staff that are doing those reports or the consultant. So you can see I listed the types of special district MSRs and spheres of influence that were done. So like Santa Barbara LAFCO for 2024, they did all their parks and rec, which would include cities that provide that service. So then they would look at multiple services for that city, and then also any combined agency service reviews if they had multiple parks and rec departments that they reviewed together. So Placer LAFCO is very similar to the other LAFCOs that we reviewed in that regard. And then I also want to point out that on top of all of these reports, staff is also doing, they listed all their special projects in their work program, all their general work that are required, like tracking annexations, reorganizations, processing applications, attending local meetings, budget management, all that kind of stuff they listed in their work programs as well. So summary findings, overall, Monterey and Solano LAFCO appear to be the most comparable to Placer LAFCO based on the criteria we analyzed, and Placer LAFCO operates very similarly to those 2 LAFCOs apart from their staffing. Placer is operating with about half the staff of the other county LAFCOs. Any questions?
Thank you for the comprehensive report.
You're welcome.
Commissioners. Dan?
Very good report within the parameters you looked at.
Yes.
Here we go. The thing caught my eye in the report is that all of the 5 counties, all the other counties, lost population over the period of time.
Yes.
I know for sure that some of those counties are no growth counties.
Right.
I'm trying to make things look better from our standpoint. I believe that if you have a stagnant county or a shrinking county, you may do the same number. In fact, you probably, on time, will do your service reports.
Yes.
But I don't think they change from year or from 5 years to 5 years. Very much. If it's shrinking, you don't shrink spheres of influence, do you?
No.
Not really.
I mean, not normal.
No.
Correct.
No. The number of calls goes down. So you don't have annexations, certainly not at the level, or projects at the level that we have as a county. So I don't know whether you could put it in this study as another look, or do another study to see what benchmarks are, because we don't have any. We match population, maybe even demographics. I'm not sure we match acreage with the other counties, but numbers of special districts and so on. Those are all good matches.
Very similar,
but
right?
There's no match when it comes to philosophical things like growth.
Yeah.
Which impact the way we do business.
Yeah, if you notice, there's only really Merced there that is growing, and the others are not. In fact, they're losing population, and that was one of, that looking at whether or not there's growth throughout a lot of counties.
Yes, so it just wasn't, if we get into higher populations, you're going to see higher growth for some of the counties, but they would maybe have more workload because of the increased population compared to Placer LAFCO, just by virtue of.
I'm not trying to solve the problem.
Right.
You make the problem.
I started by including Merced and Tulare in the analysis, but the way they staff both LAFCOs are very different. So it would be harder to do that comparison. I could redo it and add them back in if you want, and then you could see that, but I didn't think it would be beneficial.
It's almost from a percentage standpoint on the growth thing, is pick a county or set of county LAFCOs, forgetting population, forgetting anything else, but raw acreage growth, those kinds of things. Maybe it's Inyo, or I don't know, maybe it's downtown Los Angeles. But look and see how the percentage, how growth affects a LAFCO.
Okay.
Cindy, I had a comment.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
I think it would be interesting to know which of these counties are in the development business as well, because I think it has some impact, or there's information you can glean in terms of how active the special districts are.
Right. Okay.
So similarly, talking about growth, but you're talking about the county-specific growth.
Yes.
Yes, as well as.
Because if the county is in the development business, the special districts are likely providing a lot of the services there. And there's more robust work within the special district group.
Or
Yeah.
CSDs or something like that.
Yeah, to me, it just doesn't make sense to add, like Merced, right? It just the way that they function. But that does make sense, looking at what's happening in the unincorporated, and maybe, because you can look at the cities, the data for the cities, right, and compare it to what's happening in the unincorporated by county. So that would be easy to do, but their staffing model, I mean, having a COG, I can't imagine SACOG.
I'm not
Giving
sure,
them
I'm not
that
sure it would
kind
be
of power.
helpful.
Yeah, it wouldn't, and they have so much, they're a bigger agency, and so they have, a very deep bench. But I think would have us differentiate, right, what's happening in the unincorporated versus the cities. That would be easy to do because that's in the Department of Finance.
Yes.
And I think this study accomplishes the task that you were given.
Yes.
I'm not complaining about
Great.
that.
Yeah, I mean,
just
right.
thought that
I don't think it would be a bad idea to add this additional information. It could be a separate report or an appendix to this, right? We could add some more
certainly is
about.
a separate report.
Okay.
Yeah, the cities and the county, and with those specific counties.
Okay.
You guys can be happy in January.
No.
Thank you.
Any other commissioner comments on this? The only other thing I would suggest on the current work program that we do look at annexations, and I think that goes to the point of growth or change in a county as well, because that workload, if there's something that's taken more of my time than anything, it's been discussions on annexations, right? And in your current work program, you just looked at the MSRs and.
Right.
So I don't know, I mean, that's a snapshot at any given time, but it might be worth looking at.
Yeah, I could try to do some sort of annexation trend, like I go over the last 4 years for Placer and then the last 4 years for the other three and see.
I don't know if anyone else would find
Well,
that
that's not,
useful. Yeah.
you're gonna take a longer.
Longer.
Okay,
done it.
too much.
It would be hard. I would have to call the EOs and ask them if they even know if they
Okay.
could pull that up. I don't know if they could. I would have to
I
go
was
through
just
all their
looking at our
staff reports.
comparable counties, because I don't know when I see this vast difference in budget between Santa Barbara and us, and I go, well, what is
Well,
it
I
they're
know
doing?
Santa Barbara County, and they don't want any growth.
Right.
Right.
So,
Even the county.
Planning agency, and they don't want any cities.
Like to build.
yeah.
Yeah, the annexation, it would take a lot of work. I'd have to go
Okay.
through all their staff reports
Never
and
mind.
try and pull, yeah, okay.
Never mind, that was one. Any other commissioner comments? Okay, and then, so I think we would go to the public on any comments on this report, and that includes everything under the executive officer's report?
Yes, Chair.
Yes. Any public comment? I'm not seeing any in the room or online. I'll bring it back to the commission if there any other further discussion on the executive officer's report. Then we'll go to item 7, commissioner comments.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to, for the record, I see Judy is online.
Oh, yeah.
So I just wanted to note it for the record.
Okay.
That she's here.
Thank you. Thanks, Ms. Friedman. Commissioner comments? Any commissioner comments?
Nope.
I don't see any. Your light is back on. Okay. It's going off and on. That's interesting.
Sorry, I couldn't unmute fast enough, but can you start the meeting over for me, please?
Whoa.
We're laughing with you, Judy.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, with that, I'd look for, we'll just call for adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll move adjournment.
Second? Is anybody? All in favor? Aye. Thank you. So we adjourned at 5:13 PM.